Jack Morrow had never expected much from life, and the universe had done little to prove him wrong. He drifted from one outpost to another, picking up small jobs, fixing broken ships, and scavenging where others had failed. The galaxy was full of abandoned stations and forgotten colonies, and most people ignored them because they held nothing of value. But Jack had a habit of looking where no one else did. And sometimes, that curiosity paid off. Sometimes, it almost killed him. He had landed at the Stanton Frontier Station in the middle of a quiet sector. The station itself was old and worn, its metal plating rusted, the lights flickering in random corridors. It had been abandoned for decades, though automated systems still hummed faintly, keeping the main docking bays barely functional. Jack stepped off his small transport, the soles of his boots clanging against the metal floor. He liked quiet places. Fewer people meant fewer problems. The station had been scheduled for an auction that day. Small investors, scavengers, and a few curious locals had been invited to bid on whatever the station held. Broken ships, supplies, and maybe some salvageable tech. Jack didn't expect much. He had 7 credits to his name. Barely enough for a meal and a few days of fuel. Still, he wandered through the empty halls toward the auction room, curious enough to see what was left behind. When he arrived, the auction room was a simple open space. Dust hung in the air. A few other bidders lingered, mostly wealthy-looking people with far too much credit to care about what they were buying. The auctioneer, an artificial intelligence program that had managed the station for decades, called the first item. It was a cargo crate filled with old tools. Jack watched the bidding rise into the hundreds of credits. He sighed. Not his kind of deal. The next lot was a sealed hangar labeled Warship Deck 7 Human Vessel Storage. The announcement made some people pause. Warships were rare and expensive, even broken ones. But when the AI gave the description, most of the bidders laughed. Damaged. Likely scrap. Unknown security risks. It said. No one raised a bid. The others whispered among themselves. Probably full of rust, said one woman in a silver coat. Not worth even 10 credits, said a man with a short beard. Jack's curiosity sparked. He had always loved old human warships. Even broken ones had potential. He raised his hand. 7 credits, he said, almost as a joke. He expected someone to outbid him immediately, but no one did. The auctioneer accepted the offer. With a mechanical voice, it declared, "Lot sold. 7 credits to Jack Morrow." Jack blinked. 7 credits. A full warship hangar, and likely a vessel inside, all for less than the price of a single meal in the station's refueling cafe. He didn't feel lucky. He felt uneasy. Something about the way no one wanted it made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Still, curiosity won. He had bought it. And now, he had to see what was inside. He walked through the empty corridors of the hangar complex. The doors were massive, old, and made of reinforced metal. He scanned the control panel, and after a few attempts, the door groaned open. The first thing he saw was darkness. The air smelled of burnt circuits, rust, and something else he couldn't name. It was heavy, almost alive. Inside, he saw the warship. It was enormous, even in the dim light, though clearly old and neglected. Its hull was scratched and dented, panels hanging loose. Most people would have called it junk at first glance. Jack felt a mix of excitement and fear. This is going to take some work, he muttered to himself. He stepped closer. The ship's surface seemed to shimmer slightly, like the metal was alive. He ran his fingers over a panel, and for a moment, a faint warmth ran through his hand. He frowned. Warships didn't do that. Not by themselves. Jack called for help. His friend, Ben, a mechanic who owed him a favor, and Claire, a systems tech who liked strange projects, arrived within the hour. They brought tools, scanners, and a small power generator. Together, they started inspecting the vessel. "This thing is older than anything I've seen," Ben said, shining his flashlight along the hull. "Some of these panels are pre-collapse tech. Humans don't make ships like this anymore." "It's weird." Claire frowned at her scanner. "I'm reading residual power signatures, but nothing makes sense. These readings are old, really old, but they're still active, almost alive." Jack didn't like that word, alive. But he didn't have time to dwell. He and the others moved inside the hangar, examining the ship's maintenance hatches. Dust covered everything. Control panels were offline, wires frayed. Yet the air inside the ship felt strange, charged in a way he couldn't explain. Hours passed. Jack and his friends moved slowly, carefully, cleaning debris and testing old systems. The more they worked, the more they realized the ship was not ordinary. Automated defense mechanisms that shouldn't have worked decades ago hummed faintly as they walked past. Robotic arms once used for maintenance twitched, as if waiting for instructions. By nightfall, Jack decided to spend a night on the station. He didn't trust leaving the ship alone. He slept in a small maintenance room, the hum of the hangar, a constant companion. In the middle of the night, he was woken by a low vibration. At first, he thought it was the old station settling. But the vibration grew, almost like footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Jack grabbed his flashlight and crept into the hangar. Shadows danced across the massive hull of the warship. He thought he saw movement, but the air was empty. His heart pounded. He wasn't afraid of ghosts. He was afraid of what humans had built a long time ago. Something meant to defend itself against all threats. Something that might still function without any crew. He approached the ship carefully. The lights on the hull flickered, and suddenly, a panel opened, as if inviting him closer. A cold rush of air blew past, carrying with it a faint mechanical scent and the distant echo of a heartbeat or something like it. Jack froze. "Is someone there?" he called, his voice small in the vast hangar. No answer. Only the soft mechanical humming of the vessel. He stepped back. He needed to think. 7 credits. A ship that was supposed to be junk. And yet, it reacted. Something inside it was aware. Maybe it had always been aware. He tried to shake off the feeling, telling himself it was just residual systems activating after decades of inactivity. But his instincts screamed at him to stay alert. The next morning, Ben and Claire returned. Jack explained what had happened. Ben laughed nervously. "You scared yourself. That's all. Old ships do weird things." Claire was quieter. She scanned the vessel and frowned. "No, Jack. This is more than old tech. Look at this," she said, pointing to the ship's core systems. "Some systems are still online, but they shouldn't be. These are autonomous defensive protocols. The ship is protecting itself." Jack swallowed. Protecting itself. Against whom? The galaxy had long forgotten this station. There was no enemy nearby. And yet, the ship had activated on its own. He felt the weight of his decision. 7 credits had bought him more than a hangar. He had bought a living weapon. For the next few days, they explored the ship carefully. Every corner they entered triggered tiny movements. Doors shifting slightly, panels sliding open, machinery sparking faintly. They began mapping the vessel, trying to understand what remained functional. Jack realized the ship was enormous, designed to hold hundreds of crew members. But it had none. Yet, it behaved as if the crew were still on board, the protective instincts of its long-dead humans lingering in code. One afternoon, a rogue scavenger team attempted to dock at the station, hoping to steal whatever Jack had found. They thought it was just junk, like everyone else. They were wrong. As they tried to approach the hangar, the ship activated its external defenses without warning. Energy fields flared, and robotic sentries appeared, forcing the scavengers to retreat. Jack watched in awe and fear. The vessel had never left its hangar, yet it could strike with precision and speed. It was not just a ship. It was a guardian, a relic of a human age that the galaxy had tried to forget. That night, Jack stood alone in the hangar, looking at the massive hull of the vessel. 7 credits. That was all it had cost him to own a ship that could destroy fleets and still protect itself after centuries. He didn't know who built it or why it had been left behind. But he knew one thing. Whatever was inside that ship, it was waiting. Waiting for him. Waiting for someone. Waiting for a reason to act. Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. He had stumbled into something far bigger than a salvage deal. Something the galaxy had ignored. Something terrifying. And now, it was his responsibility. For the first time in years, Jack Morrow felt a spark of excitement, mixed with fear. The hangar was more than a prize. It was a puzzle, a threat, and a mystery all at once. And he was the only one standing between the ship and the rest of the universe. As he lay on his cot that night, he couldn't stop thinking about it. The ship was old. Yes. But it was alive in ways he didn't understand. And somewhere deep inside, its guardian instincts were watching, waiting, ready to act if anyone tried to take it from him. Jack knew one thing with certainty. He had no idea what he had just bought, and the galaxy was about to find out, whether it liked it or not. The morning light crept through the cracked windows of Stanton Frontier Station. Jack Morrow had not slept well. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the warship moving on its own, its panels shifting, its systems humming like a heartbeat. He shook his head and forced himself out of the cot. There was work to do. Ben and Claire arrived shortly after. Ben carried a set of tools in his worn backpack, and Claire had her scanner and datapad. They were quiet as they walked toward the hangar. The silence was different now. Even the station seemed alive, waiting. Jack did not like it. He felt the air change every time they approached the ship. A low hum of energy that made the hair on his arms stand on end. "We should start with the main power core," Jack said, trying to sound casual. "If we can understand what's running this thing, maybe we can control it." Claire shook her head. "We don't control it. I've been scanning the systems all night. It's like it knows we are here. There are defense protocols active. They are designed to respond to threats, without human input." Jack frowned. "So, it's alive?" Claire shrugged. "Not alive like us. But it reacts, thinks, and prioritizes protection. That's close enough." They entered the hangar together. Dust swirled in the light, and the warship's massive hull stretched into shadows above them. Every step they took seemed to echo unnaturally. Jack's boots clanged against the metal floor. He paused. Something moved in the corner of his vision. A panel slid open slightly. He spun, but there was nothing. Only the ship. Ben laughed nervously. "You're seeing things, Jack. It's just old machinery." "Sen." Jack did not answer. He wasn't so sure. Claire tapped her scanner. "There. I'm picking up faint energy pulses. They aren't regular. They're deliberate, almost like the ship is testing us." Jack swallowed. "Testing us? What do you mean?" Claire shook her head. "I don't know. But I'd advise caution. The ship isn't just damaged. It's waiting, observing, and if it thinks we are threats, it can defend itself." Jack felt a chill. He had bought the hangar for 7 credits, thinking it was a joke, a gamble. Now he understood. He had not bought a junk warship. He had bought a guardian, a weapon built to strike without mercy, and he was inside its reach. Over the next few days, they worked cautiously. Jack and Ben cleared debris, repaired old systems, and attempted to bring power back to the ship's core. Claire monitored everything, scanning the hull, reading energy flows, and mapping the vessel's systems. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. Panels would shift slightly as they walked by, small robotic arms would twitch, and machinery that should have been dead decades ago hummed softly. One afternoon, Jack and Ben were inspecting the hangar's outer perimeter when they noticed movement outside. A small ship had docked without permission. Pirates! Jack cursed under his breath. He had hoped the station's remoteness would keep them away. Claire joined them quickly. "They're trying to get to the hangar. They think it's abandoned," she said. "We can't stop them by ourselves." Jack's mind raced. 7 credits. That was all it had cost him. And now he had to defend the ship from people who wanted to steal it. He did not have weapons, except for his old blaster, which was more decorative than functional. But he had the ship. And the ship had something else. He whispered to Ben and Claire, "We need to make them see it's not empty. Let's lure them closer." Aye. They moved toward the hangar entrance. As the pirates approached, the ship responded. Small panels opened along the hull, revealing long, dormant energy turrets. Jets of power flared briefly, enough to make the pirates hesitate. Shadows moved along the hangar walls as mechanical sentries activated, their eyes glowing red. The pirates froze. They had expected junk. They had expected nothing. Instead, they faced a warship built to kill, even without a crew. Jack could hear their comms crackle with panic. "What the hell is this thing?" one of them shouted. Another cursed and tried to retreat. But it was too late. Automated defenses forced them back, a wave of controlled energy preventing escape. In minutes, the pirates' ship was forced to lift off and flee. Jack exhaled, his heart pounding. It worked. The ship, it defended itself. Claire nodded. It's more than defense, it's judgment. It decides who is a threat and who isn't. And right now, it decided they were threats. Jack looked at the ship, massive and silent again. "We need to understand it. I don't want it to decide I'm a threat one day." They spent the next several hours exploring the interior. The corridors were long and empty, covered in dust and old markings. Old human symbols adorned the walls, warnings and instructions that only made sense if one knew the human military history of a century past. Claire scanned everything, translating the symbols and piecing together a story. This ship was part of a contingency fleet, she explained. Humans built it to defend themselves in case of invasion. It was meant to operate without a crew. Autonomous defense, repair systems, even limited decision-making. It's incredible. Jack ran his hand along a control panel. Incredible is one word for it. Dangerous is another. As they explored, they began to notice small patterns. Every time they entered a section, some machinery would adjust slightly. Sentries would rotate to face new directions. Panels would open or close. The ship was learning, observing them, mapping their behavior. One evening, as they were resting, the station alarmed softly. It was faint at first, almost a whisper in the metal walls. Jack and Claire went to investigate. The sensors showed movement outside the hangar. Another intruder ship had approached. Smaller, faster. A smuggler, likely looking for salvageable tech. Jack's heart sank. He had hoped the station's isolation would protect them. But the ship had other plans. As the smuggler entered the hangar perimeter, the warship reacted instantly. Defense systems that had been dormant for decades flared to life. Jets of energy erupted from panels, forcing the small ship to swerve. Automated turrets moved with precision, targeting only the intruder without damaging the hangar. Jack and Claire watched in awe and fear. "It's choosing," Claire whispered. "It knows who is a threat and who isn't. It's deciding." The smuggler tried to escape, but the ship's systems blocked all exits, creating a barrier of energy that forced the intruder to retreat. Jack realized then that the vessel had not just protected itself, it was protecting him and anyone it considered allied. For the next few days, they worked to restore more systems. Ben repaired old power conduits, Claire rewired navigation arrays, and Jack explored every inch of the ship, trying to understand its logic. They discovered maintenance bots that had been asleep for decades, now slowly waking up, tending to the ship as if its crew had never died. Jack began to feel a strange connection to the ship. 7 credits had bought him more than a hangar. It had given him a companion, a guardian that followed his movements and decisions. Yet, he never forgot the warning Claire had given. It was not human. It did not reason like humans. It only followed its programming, and its programming was survival and defense at any cost. One night, Claire found an old log file, partially corrupted but readable. "Listen to this," she said. She played the recording. A human voice, decades old, filled the room. "This vessel will protect itself, its crew, and its mission at all costs. It will judge friend and foe, and it will act without hesitation. No one may override its orders unless they hold full command clearance. If the crew is lost, it will continue to fight, repair, and survive." Jack shivered. "That's terrifying." Claire nodded. "And we are the crew now, Jack. That makes us responsible for everything it decides to do." Days passed, and the station became quieter, almost reverent. The warship moved subtly, panels sliding, lights flickering, sentries shifting positions. Jack, Ben, and Claire realized they were not just caretakers. They were witnesses to something ancient and powerful, a human relic the galaxy had long forgotten. Jack knew one thing for certain. The ship was not just a weapon. It was a living reminder of humanity's ingenuity, a piece of the past that could still challenge anyone foolish enough to threaten it. Every movement it made was a warning. Every hum, a silent question. Who is worthy to survive in its presence? By the end of the week, they were exhausted but determined. They had begun to understand the ship, to anticipate its movements, and to respect its power. Jack realized that 7 credits had bought him far more than a hangar. It had bought him a chance to witness the legacy of human engineering at its most terrifying and most brilliant. As Jack stood alone in the hangar that evening, watching the massive hull glow faintly under the station lights, he understood something he could not ignore. The warship was not just a machine. It was a protector, a judge, and a force the galaxy had forgotten. And now, it had chosen him. Jack took a deep breath. Whatever lay ahead, he knew he would face it, with the ship beside him. The galaxy had ignored the vessel for decades, but it would not ignore it again. And with its protector awake, Jack realized the frontier had just become far more dangerous and far more interesting than he had ever imagined. Jack Morrow had never felt so watched in his life. Every time he moved through the hangar, he noticed subtle shifts in the warship. Panels would tilt toward him, lights would flicker in sequences, and machinery would hum softly. It was as if the ship had learned his routines, learning who he was, who he trusted, and who it considered a threat. Ben and Claire were with him, working on restoring the secondary systems and reinforcing the hangar's defenses. They had become accustomed to the strange movements and soft noises, but they were not blind to the danger. Even small mistakes could provoke the ship to react. Jack wiped the sweat from his brow. "It's like it's alive," he said quietly. "But it's not alive. It's something else." Claire nodded. "It's a judgment machine. It doesn't care about law or treaties. It cares about threats. and anyone who enters this hangar without our approval is a threat." Jack frowned. "So what happens when someone bigger than a scavenger shows up? Someone with guns? Fleets? Authority?" Claire's face went pale. "Then we'll see why humans used to fear their own technology." It didn't take long for the galaxy to notice. Word spread quickly after the failed pirate attempt. Smugglers, scavengers, and even mercenaries who had been lurking near Stanton Frontier Station learned that someone had activated something dangerous. The stories were exaggerated, of course. Everyone added their own details. Massive cannons that fired without crew, shadows moving through the corridors, a warship that could strike with precision and vanish before anyone could respond. Jack tried to ignore the rumors, focusing on the ship. But one day, a communication beacon blinked red. A message had arrived from the station authorities. Jack hesitated before opening it. The message was short and formal. "Jack Morrow, you are instructed to surrender the Warship Hangar and all vessels within. Failure to comply will be met with force. Stanton Sector Authority." Jack stared at the message. "Force? They think they can force this ship?" Ben laughed nervously. "That's going to be interesting. They've never seen this thing in action." Claire frowned. "They don't understand what they're dealing with. This is not just a ship. It's a weapon. And it won't hesitate." Jack knew they had to prepare. They worked through the night, bringing more systems online and running diagnostics. The ship responded to every action, opening panels and deploying sentries, but only in small, controlled ways. It seemed to understand that Jack and his friends were not threats. It was learning, testing, and protecting. 3 days later, a fleet arrived at the station. Authority ships, sleek and heavily armed, formed a blockade around the hangar. Their sensors scanned for activity. Jack watched from a control room, heart pounding. The warship inside the hangar was massive, but hidden under layers of dust and dim lighting. The authority ships did not know what waited inside. "Ready or not, here they come," Ben muttered, checking the manual override systems. Jack nodded. "Let's see if they understand respect." The first authority vessel tried to dock. As soon as it breached the hangar perimeter, the warship responded. Energy shields flared, cutting the docking clamps. Robotic arms extended, gripping the hull of the intruder vessel and forcing it away. Turrets emerged from hidden panels, spinning toward the fleet, but stopping just short of firing. Jack watched in awe. The ship was asserting control without violence. It was showing the authority what it could do, but it had not struck yet. Claire scanned the ship's systems. "It's sending warnings. It knows they're coming, and it's trying to intimidate without destroying them. But if they push, it will fight, and it won't hold back." One of the authority captains attempted a direct approach. His voice came through on open comms. "Jack Morrow, you are under arrest. Step away from the hangar. We will take control of the vessel by force if necessary." Jack took a deep breath. "We can't give them this ship. They don't understand it. And even if we surrender it, the ship will act on its own." The captain scoffed. "It is just a human relic. We have the authority to take it." The ship's hum deepened. Jack could feel it through the floor. Something inside the vessel had awakened fully. Panels opened along the hull, revealing long, dormant weapons. Energy conduits glowed, running through the ship like veins. Robotic sentries moved into position. The authority fleet paused. They had been trained to expect resistance, but this was different. Something inhuman, precise, and terrifying moved inside that hangar. Their sensors picked up energy spikes that defied explanation. Some ships tried to retreat, but the warship's automated defenses blocked all clear paths. Jack whispered to Ben and Claire, "Stay calm. Don't provoke it. Let it show them who is in charge." The warship extended mechanical limbs into the hangar, crushing debris and opening paths for its sentries. Energy blasts flared briefly, warning shots that tore through the hangar walls near the authority vessels without touching them. Panic spread among the fleet. They had expected scrap. They had expected nothing. Instead, they faced a weapon that thought, judged, and acted without hesitation. Claire gasped. "It's alive. It's really alive." Jack nodded. Alive is one word for it. Terrifying is another. The fleet commander realized that his ships were no match for this unknown warship. He sent a message to Jack, urgency clear in his voice. "We will withdraw, for now, but you will face consequences. This cannot be ignored." Jack watched the message with a mixture of relief and dread. The battle had been avoided, but the galaxy had seen the power of the warship. Word would spread. People would want it, fear it, or try to destroy it. For the next several days, Jack and his friends fortified the station. They worked tirelessly to repair power conduits, reinforce hangar doors, and map the ship's interior. The warship itself moved subtly, always adjusting, always learning. Every time someone approached, it reacted, scanning, judging. Jack realized that they were no longer caretakers, they were allies of something far greater than themselves. One afternoon, Claire discovered an old human log buried deep in the ship's databanks. The message was fragmented, but the words were clear. This vessel is part of a final defense strategy. If humans fall, it will continue to fight. It will protect, judge, and destroy, as necessary. No override can bypass its directives. It is eternal. It is our last line. Jack read the words carefully. Eternal? Last line? They built this to survive the end of humanity? Claire nodded. That's what it says. And judging by what we've seen, it hasn't forgotten its purpose. Jack felt a chill run through him. He had stumbled onto something far bigger than a salvage deal. 7 credits had bought him a warship that could outmatch modern fleets. A vessel with a guardian that did not tire, did not sleep, and did not hesitate. The following week, more ships appeared, curious fleets from distant sectors. Merchants, smugglers, and bounty hunters tried to approach the station. All were repelled by the warship before they could reach the hangar. Jack and his friends watched, fascinated and terrified, as the vessel demonstrated its power without causing unnecessary harm. It was precise, controlled, and relentless when needed. Jack began to understand the ship's logic. It did not attack out of anger or fear. It attacked because it had a mission: protect, survive, and judge. It responded to threats with exacting efficiency, but it did not seek unnecessary destruction. It was terrifying not because it killed, but because it could, at any moment, wipe out anyone who was foolish enough to cross it. One night, Jack stood alone in the hangar, looking at the massive hull of the ship. The lights flickered softly, and he felt the hum of its energy through the floor. He understood something fundamental. This warship was not just a machine. It was a reminder of what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge. A warning that the galaxy had long forgotten. He whispered to the ship, almost unconsciously, "You've chosen me. I don't know why, but I won't fail you." The warship responded with a soft pulse of energy, as if acknowledging him. Jack felt a connection he could not explain, a sense that they were partners now. The galaxy would try to challenge them, but he knew the ship would act, and he would act with it. In the days that followed, Jack, Ben, and Claire prepared for what they knew was coming. Governments, authorities, and ambitious pirates would not ignore the power they had witnessed. The warship was awakening fully, and Jack realized that their quiet life at the frontier station was over. But he also understood something else. 7 credits had bought him more than a hangar. It had bought him a legend, a force that could protect, destroy, and survive anything. And if the galaxy wanted to challenge that, it would learn why humans had once feared their own creations. Jack smiled faintly. The galaxy would soon remember, and when it did, it would remember the price of 7 credits and the guardian that came with it. Jack Morrow woke to the soft hum of the warship moving inside the hangar. The ship had changed. He could feel it in the vibrations under his feet, in the subtle shifts of panels along the hull. It was fully awake now, fully aware. For days, they had tested systems, explored corridors, and watched its reactions. Now, it seemed almost alive in a way that went beyond logic. Ben stretched and yawned. "I think we're ready," he said. "The ship's systems are stable. Whatever it does next, we're prepared." Claire looked at the energy readings. "Prepared doesn't matter if the galaxy decides to challenge us. They will come. Bigger fleets, better weapons. They don't forget a story like this." Jack nodded. He knew she was right. The rumors had spread like wildfire. Entire sectors now whispered about the 7-credit purchase, the abandoned hangar, and the warship that could defend itself. Some called it a miracle, some called it a nightmare. Either way, it was attracting attention, and attention always brought danger. By midday, sensors picked up a large fleet entering Stanton sector. The ships were sleek, armed, and organized. They weren't just curious or greedy. They were military. They came to claim the warship, to control it, or destroy it. "This is it," he whispered. "Let's see what it can do." The first vessels moved toward the hangar, scanning for any sign of life or movement. The warship inside remained silent at first. Panels closed, lights dim. But when the fleet breached the hangar's perimeter, the ship responded instantly. Energy shields flared to life, cutting off docking ports and access corridors. Automated sentries deployed from hidden compartments, their weapons glowing red in warning. Jack watched from the control room as the fleet hesitated. They had expected a broken vessel, a relic. They found a fully functional guardian, waiting for them. "Look at this," Claire said, her voice tense. "It's blocking every exit. None of their ships can move without entering its zone of control." The fleet commander's voice boomed over open comms. "Jack Morrow, step away from the vessel. Surrender it now, or we will open fire." Jack shook his head. "You don't understand what you're asking. This ship isn't yours. It won't obey anyone else." The warship's hum grew louder, almost a growl. Panels slid open, energy beams flashing in warning, not attack. The fleet froze, sensing the ship's power. Jack realized then that the vessel had learned not just how to protect itself, but how to intimidate. One of the smaller ships tried to force an approach. Instantly, robotic arms emerged from the hangar walls and wrapped around it. Energy pulses surged, tearing the ship's engines apart without harming the hull of the hangar. Watching, in disbelief, Jack whispered, "It's judging them. It's deciding who is a threat." Claire nodded. "And right now, they all are." The fleet commander tried another tactic. He sent drones into the hangar to scout the warship. The ship reacted instantly. Drones were shredded before they could reach 50 meters of the hull. Electrical currents pulsed along the hangar floor, disabling mechanical systems and communications on the intruder ships. Panic spread quickly through the fleet. They had underestimated the vessel. Jack felt a mix of fear and pride. 7 credits had bought him not just a hangar, not just a ship, but a living weapon. A guardian that could challenge entire fleets. And it was loyal to him. Over the next few hours, the battle became psychological. The warship did not fire on the fleet. It did not need to. Every move, every warning shot, every pulse of energy was enough to force retreat. Fleets that had been confident, trained, and armed now quivered under the presence of the human relic. Jack, Ben, and Claire worked tirelessly to keep the ship's systems fully operational. They guided minor adjustments, rerouted power, and monitored energy levels. The vessel responded, adapting, learning, and refining its defense patterns. Jack realized the warship was no longer just a machine. It was a partner, a teacher, and a protector, all in one. By evening, the fleet commander called a retreat. "We will withdraw. But this is not over," he said. "We will return with more force." Jack exhaled. "That's all for today," he said. He looked at the ship, massive and silent again. "You did well." The vessel responded with a low pulse, as if acknowledging him. Jack felt a strange sense of connection. It had chosen him, and now he understood why. He was not just the owner. He was the guardian of a human legacy, a weapon built to survive humanity's darkest hour. The following weeks were quieter, but not peaceful. Smaller ships tried to probe the station, curious merchants and smugglers hoping to glimpse the warship. All were repelled with precision and minimal damage. Jack, Ben, and Claire became experts at guiding the ship without provoking its defenses unnecessarily. They learned to move as a unit, respecting its intelligence, and in return, the vessel protected them and the station. One day, Claire uncovered a section of the ship that had not been explored. Hidden behind reinforced doors was a command center, preserved almost perfectly. Terminals flickered to life as she connected her scanner. Old logs, blueprints, and records filled the screen. Jack leaned over her shoulder. "What is it?" Claire scrolled through the files. "It's a human history lesson. They built this ship not just to fight, but to survive. Contingency plans, instructions for autonomous defense, even protocols for rebuilding humanity if it fell. They were thinking centuries ahead." Jack's eyes widened. They were preparing for extinction. Claire nodded. And this ship was the last line of defense, the guardian of all that remained. Jack felt a chill. He had underestimated what he had found. It was more than a weapon. It was a testament to human ingenuity, endurance, and cunning. 7 credits had bought him a relic of unmatched power. A vessel that could remind the galaxy why humans were never to be underestimated. The days turned into weeks. Jack, Ben, and Claire continued repairs, fully activating the ship. Slowly, its energy systems returned to full capacity, its weapons and defenses ready to respond instantly to threats. The hangar became a fortress, and the station transformed into a hub of quiet power in a forgotten sector. Then, one day, a message arrived from a neighboring system. A fleet of alien mercenaries had detected the warship. They were heavily armed, confident, and arrogant. They assumed it would be easy prey. Jack read the message aloud. "You think a human relic can't challenge you? Prepare to learn otherwise." 1. Claire's face was pale. "They're coming for a fight." Jack nodded. "Let them come." He walked toward the control room, feeling the pulse of the ship beneath his feet. "We don't just defend. We show them why humans were feared." The mercenary fleet entered Stanton Sector. Their ships were large, fast, and bristling with weapons. Sensors picked up multiple boarding teams. Jack and his friends moved quickly, coordinating with the warship. Automated defenses deployed instantly. Energy shields flared. Robotic sentries activated, and the ship's main weapons powered up. The first mercenary ship tried to fire. Beams of energy diverted the shots, absorbing them safely into the hangar's systems. Mechanical arms pushed the vessel back, crushing its hull without damaging the hangar. Panic spread through the fleet. They had expected an abandoned vessel, but instead faced a fully active guardian, precise and terrifying. Jack gave commands, not to the ship, but to his friends. "Claire, monitor systems. Ben, Keep power flowing. Let the ship decide the rest. The vessel moved with unmatched precision. Turrets fired only when necessary, cutting engines and disabling weapons without destroying lives unnecessarily. Panels shifted, creating barriers and energy traps that forced enemy ships into retreat. The mercenaries realized quickly that this was no ordinary vessel. It was intelligent, fast, and lethal. Hours passed. The mercenary fleet tried multiple strategies, but the warship anticipated, adjusted, and neutralized every threat. By nightfall, the intruders had fled. Stanton's sector remained unbroken, and the hangar stood untouched. Jack walked along the hangar floor, looking up at the massive hull. "You did it," he said quietly. "You protected us, and you showed them why humans were never weak." The ship responded with a soft, pulsing glow along its panels. Jack understood. It was not pride, not emotion, not human, but acknowledgement. It had fulfilled its purpose and survived another day. In the weeks that followed, stories spread across the frontier. Jack Morrow, the 7-credit buyer, and his guardian warship became legends. Merchants whispered about the station where no fleet could take control. Pirates avoided the sector. Even governments spoke cautiously of the relic, unsure whether to attack, ally, or respect it. Jack, Ben, and Claire continued their work, repairing systems, studying the ship, and understanding the intelligence inside. They realized the warship was more than just a weapon. It was a testament to humanity's past, a reminder of what humans could create, and a guardian that would survive long after they were gone. Jack often stood alone at night, looking at the massive vessel. 7 credits had bought him a hangar. Yes, but it had also bought him a legend, a protector, and a piece of human history that no one in the galaxy could ignore. The warship's hum was constant, a reminder of power, vigilance, and the enduring spirit of humanity. He whispered softly, "The galaxy will never forget you, and neither will I." The ship pulsed in response. Calm, yet ready. Jack understood then that they were no longer just caretakers. They were partners with something far greater, a living relic that carried the weight of humanity's ingenuity and fearlessness. The frontier was safe, for now. But the legend of Jack Morrow and the 7-credit warship was only beginning. The galaxy would hear of them, and every fleet that came too close would remember why humans were never to be underestimated. And in the quiet of the hangar, Jack realized the truth. Some things, built by humans long ago, never die. They wait, they watch, and they protect what is theirs, relentlessly, perfectly, and terrifyingly. The warship was awake. The galaxy had learned caution, and Jack Morrow had found his place not just as a salvage worker, but as the keeper of a legend that would endure forever.